Hey friends, welcome back to the Finding Joy in Your Home podcast. I'm your host, Jami, and today I'm going to be sharing some new baby tips as a mom of 8. Now, these tips are ones that I really had to think about because honestly, every time I'm preparing for a new baby, I have to go back through it all and think, yeah, what do we do? What do I need? What are the things? Because there's a way of forgetting it every single time. And people go, what are your favorite new baby items? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I really have to think about it. So I am actually preparing. We are having our new baby in about 2 weeks from recording. By the time you guys listen to this, it'll either be right before we have the baby or right after, by the time this episode goes out. And so I have really been in like baby mode of trying to figure out, okay, what do I need? And this has actually come a little bit later than normal because we are having our 7th boy. So when I say I already have everything, I already have everything. I have bought literally like one thing for this baby, although I really did want to go buy some new baby outfits, but I didn't need to. So I have all the stuff from his brother who just turned 2. And so I really didn't need anything. And so I've had all the baby stuff in a bucket, which is, I mean, it's such a blessing, but it also has left me this last week feeling totally unprepared because I'm like, do I have everything? I think so. What? So I've got all my buckets out, and my project actually later today is to go through it, wash the outfits that he'll need as a newborn, get diapers ready. Do we have pacifiers? What needs to be boiled? Like those preparatory things. Get my hospital bag packed. I need to finally get through all of that. So as I was sitting down making my list, I thought, well, this is a perfect time to share this on the podcast because in a year from now, I won't remember any of this. And people will ask me tips and I'll go, I don't remember. You really got to think about it. So we are preparing to welcome baby number 8. This is our 7th son. We have one beautiful daughter. Yes, she is spoiled rotten. Yes, she is the center of attention. We love our boys too. And we're getting ready, really nervous and excited and all those feelings as we gear up for the C-section that's going to be quite close at this point. So what I did today is I just put together some really random, like I sat down and thought, if I was talking to a new mom who's brand new, hasn't had a baby or has had one, what are my tips? And I literally just like wrote them down without any sort of organization. So we're just going to we're going to just dive in with these. So number 1, okay, this is my number 1 piece of advice for a new mom, is to plan ahead. Absolutely. Plan ahead, be prepared, but be loose with your expectations. And this is something I think has become worse in the last couple of years with social media, is there are so many expectations now around pregnancy, motherhood, breastfeeding, newbornhood, postpartum, hospital stays, all of these things. Now, I'm going to say not all of that's bad. We've had previous generations where they really knew nothing about the birth process and nursing. And, people would say, oh, nobody ever told me that this would happen. There's a happy medium between being ignorant because nobody's talking about birth to everybody sharing the most idyllic version maybe on Instagram and setting up our expectations so that they are so high and so crazy that we're just constantly disappointed with motherhood or with pregnancy because it's not going how we think or it doesn't look how we think or what have you. So, one of the things that, with social media, I always try to be very real. Like I'm not an Instagrammer who's just sharing beautiful photos all the time. I share my messy house and the projects we're working on and the hard parts of having newborns and pregnancy and all of that, right? But again, there's a fine balance between being a complainer all the time and having a joyful heart. But I don't shy away from sharing that, like, yeah, there's hard things. You guys know, you listen to my podcast. There are hard things, and it's what we do with those hard things. But I have had many people on Instagram when I share that postpartum is a really tough time for me. It's not easy for me. I have really struggled with the newbornhood. I have really difficult times breastfeeding. We just have some difficulties. And people are shocked when I share that because they're like, oh, I assumed since you have, you're on your 8th child that it all must be easy for you. Like pregnancy is not my favorite. There's just hard. There's hard parts about it. And there are some people who absolutely love like that newborn time. They would do it over and over and over again. They love being pregnant. And so a lot of times people will be like, oh, I just assumed you were someone who loved being pregnant and loved the breastfeeding and loved this new time period. And so they're shocked when I say, no, actually, I don't. Like, I just honestly wish I could skip it all. We have some struggles, and it's not my favorite time period, even though there are really sweet things. Feeling my baby kick, having the newborn, like I love my newborns, but it's a difficult month or two for me. It just is. And so what I really want to encourage you that is if there are hard parts, that is okay. It doesn't make it not worth it. Obviously, now I've done this a bunch of times. It is absolutely worth it. These children are worth it. But like all things with motherhood, there are tough moments. And if we get kind of sucked into this Instagram beautiful picture that everything's supposed to be beautiful, well, then when breastfeeding is hard, when we are struggling, when we have postpartum depression, it can feel like we are doing something wrong then. And really, the fact of the matter is there are just some really tough things to go through. It is pain to bring children into this world. And so everything may not go the way that you want. So again, we can plan. We can make plans. You can have your birth plan. You can do research. I mean, I am all for being informed, for doing research, for having, make those plans. Get the things that you think are going to help postpartum. Absolutely. But hold all of those plans with a very loose hand. Because God is sovereign over everything in life, including birth. And so we need to trust him. And I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of you have heard my story. There's no situation ever that I imagined I would have 6 C-sections and that would be my only experience. I am very crunchy. I wanted a home birth, which we didn't do with our first being twins. I took the Bradley natural birthing classes. I wanted to become a Bradley birthing instructor, which doesn't work when you've had all C-sections. Not my plan, not what I want. Not looking forward to this next C-section. And yet I also trust the Lord in that. And so if things don't go the way you want, it's very easy to become very much a victim in that. And woe is me. And yet we can still find immense joy, immense blessing within the things that don't go correctly. Breastfeeding might not be as easy as you thought. There's a lot of things in that. And so not to discourage you, especially someone who's listening, who's never had a baby before, this is not like horror story hour. There are so many blessings. Like, this is why we do it, because the pain is worth it. And I am so excited to meet this next baby. Every single one of my children is absolutely worth the sacrifice, but there is sacrifice to it. So if it's not as idyllic as you thought it was going to be, that's okay. And that's, almost everyone's birth story. So a lot of times I'll hear moms compare like, oh, well, like, why is mine so hard compared to everyone else? Well, you're just not living in everybody else's household. You don't see the pain and the things that they go through. And some people do have it easier. Some people it's harder. And so, that's just life. And we have to just be okay with that. So plan ahead, but be loose with your expectations on all of it, right? Okay. So advice number 2 is you do not need as much as you think you do for newborn days. So even back when I had my first, so my oldest are almost 12. So I was pregnant 12 years ago, making my baby registry, and you know nothing at this point of what do I need, all the things. And I remember looking up the baby lists online. We had Pinterest, looking at Pinterest, trying to come up with look for baby lists, and really trying to research and figure out what do I need. Well, there's definitely a lot of things that you don't need. And also every mom is going to be different. But social media today makes it a lot harder. There are so many things that I see that new moms just have to have that are ridiculous. Okay, so let me back up. If you have the funds, the desire, the ability to buy a $2,000 stroller, go for it. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not saying buying higher quality items is wrong at all. There's a time and a place. There's times where, yes, quality is better in certain areas and in a lot of areas. But I'm going to tell you right now, moms, you don't need a $2,000 stroller. You're going to be absolutely completely fine and just okay. I mean, like absolutely okay. You're fine. You don't need the $2,000 stroller. If you have the means for that, I mean, look at it as a blessing. I praise the Lord for that. Okay. But so much with social media, with influencers, is the $2,000 stroller, and you have to have the $800 car seat. And I mean, then like I see all these modern swings that are like $1,000. Like, you do not need these ridiculously priced items. You don't. With my twins, we had our like $100 Graco twin stroller that our Graco car seats that were probably like $80 clipped into, and it was an absolutely amazing, perfect setup. We didn't have, and you know what? We were given that $100 stroller. Actually, the whole set with the stroller and both car seats was like people pulled together for our baby shower and got that for us because that was a really big ticket item at the time. And it was wonderful and it worked great. And yet with social media, we think that because no one's sharing their $80 Graco car seat and saying, hey, works great and is wonderful. All we see are the influencers. And I mean, most of them are being given this stuff too. They're being given the $2,000 stroller to then share with all their followers that you have to have this one. And so I just want to encourage you, especially when you're starting out, especially when you have young kids, like if you don't have the means, if you don't have the finances there, it's absolutely okay. You don't need all those big things, and you don't need tons and tons and tons of stuff. So you look at a baby registry and you're going to see on there a lot of items for babies that are 6 to 12 months old. You don't need a high chair yet. If you get a high chair early, that's fine. But you don't need that for a newborn. You're not going to need that for 6-8 months. You're not going to need it for quite a while. But there's bouncer seats and there's swings and there's, and some of these can absolutely be helpful, but don't rush out necessarily and go, or don't think that you need to rush out and go buy every single item, because there's so many people who start with a swing and their babies hate it and they never use it. A swing to me is actually one of my absolute favorite things. I love the swing. That is an item that I will always have. And especially with twins, being able to put them in, we had 2 swings for the 2 sets of twins. And we had started with one, let's test it out really quickly, realized, oh, we need a second one. The little bouncer seats to me are really helpful, but I'm talking like the $20 bouncer seats. You don't need anything fancy. And that's about it as far as like equipment wise that I need for like a newborn. The great thing is I know we want to get prepared. I know you want to get like excited and set up the nursery. That's awesome. But don't stress yourself out having to have everything, because the fact of the matter is you have that baby and you realize you need a different kind of pacifier, or you need X, Y, or Z. Target's around the corner, Walmart's around the corner, Amazon's a day or 2 away. There's always something that you can run out and grab if you really need it. Like if you realize, oh, I didn't have this. And so I know we want to get prepared by having everything all at once, but you're just not always going to know what you need. And even this time around with baby number 8, I'm sitting here going, Jason, do I have everything? And then I realized I'm being really silly. We're going to be in the hospital for 2 days. If we're sitting in the hospital and there's something I don't have, Jason can run to Walmart. Like it's not the end of the world. You don't have to have every single tiny little thing. You're going to be okay. And so just keep it simple. Keep it simple. Don't stress yourself out over that. Again, plan ahead, make your plan, do your baby registry. But if there's some things that you feel like, I don't have that yet, it's okay. You have time. It's not like you have to have everything before baby gets here or you don't get anything else. You can plan it ahead. You can continue to get stuff. You don't need the high chair yet. You don't need all the burp, or all the, you don't need all the, what are they called? Bibs for when they're eating food yet. You don't need the spoons. Like they're not doing any of that yet. So again, if you're getting it during your baby registry, that's great. Go ahead and add all that stuff, but just don't let that add so much stress that, all of the things that you have to have. Really, really simple. So I'm going to share with you my newborn must-haves. Some of these are specific to me because everybody's going to do things a little bit differently. And I do tend to be really on the simple side. I don't need burp cloths and baby washcloths and baby towels and swaddle blankets and a different nursing cover. You're going to see I'm very simple because I prefer to be simple. I like to grab a loose bag with a couple of items. And I like to keep it simple. Some people want all those different extra things, and that's okay. But figure out for your personality, for how you are, what sorts of things you might want. And also, it's trial and error. I've done this a few times to kind of figure out what works well. Okay, so here's my newborn essentials. Some newborn outfits. Now, some people will say skip newborn outfits entirely because they're barely in them. My experience is with having babies born early is that I have had babies in newborn clothes for a very long time. And so you really aren't quite sure what you're going to need. So I would definitely have newborn outfits on hand, and then 0 to 3. But there is a big jump between newborn and 0 to 3. And so have kind of a mix of both. It's also okay if the outfit's a little big on your baby. It's fine. But I always bring, I know by now that my babies will at least be in newborn for a month at least. And so get those newborn outfits together. I like to I have 2 different outfits to the hospital just so I have options. And then I've got, my newborn clothes kind of washed and ready for when we bring baby home. Honestly, I am someone, like I said, I'm very simple. My newborns, until they're at least 3 months, they wear footy pajamas, footy sleepers, zip up sleepers. That's what they wear 100% of the time. And all those cute little newborn outfits are adorable. And, if this is your first baby and you've got all these cute outfits, you want to put them in, that's awesome. I had so many cute outfits, but I think with having twins right off the bat, I couldn't, it was too much laundry anyway. Like, you put them in this cute outfit and they poop or they puke or they, it's ruined 10 seconds later. And so I really, really quickly realized that in the little ages, these really cute, fancy outfits are not for me, especially because so many of them are really uncomfortable. You get these cute little overalls, and then you realize putting that on a 2-month-old is not comfortable. And so 100% of all my first 3-month clothing is footy pajamas. 100%. That's what we use. So, all right, next one is muslin blankets. I love muslin blankets. I have a good, probably 10 of them, and I use these for everything. So muslin, if you don't know, it's really light, breathable material, really, really nice. These are, what is that? Aiden, the brand, Aiden and Anais or something. That's the big brand, but you can find them, all over now. But these muslin blankets, I use these to swaddle. I use these as a blanket for baby. I use these as a nursing cover. You just throw them over. I don't use an actual nursing cover. I find them useless and ridiculous when I already just have a blanket right there for the baby. Just throw it over. I use them as a burp cloth. I use it if the baby's spitting up. I just, what's the difference of washing the muslin blanket? I mean, these are little tiny things. What's the difference of washing that and washing burp cloths? So I keep it really simple. I carry muslin blankets, and that is it. So if the baby spits up, then that one's going in the wash, and I pull out a new one. And that is what I use for any sort of need like that. And you could lay it down, use it as a changing table. I mean, I just use the muslin blankets for everything. They're big enough that it works great as a nursing cover for me. It's my favorite. That's what I use for everything. I will bring a couple of different pacifiers to the hospital. I know there are people who say you should not ever use a pacifier that early. It's just for us, I don't need to go in details on here, but I know there's kids listening. We have several different nursing issues that really make it very painful for me. And so I have had babies where they just want to suckle constantly 24/7, even right from the hospital. And baby number 5, actually, I had bleeding profusely in the hospital. Just issues. Okay. I know there's lots of ears listening. So, I have had a lot of issues in that regard. And so I bring pacifiers, and there are, we're not actually huge pacifiers. None of my babies have actually taken pacifiers past the first 2 months. But there are times for me where I just need a 5-minute break, and I use the pacifiers. Okay. And that's something I'm going to tell you too, is there's experts, and they're going to tell you exactly the way you're supposed to do everything, although all the experts will disagree. And you need to kind of find your own way. That's what I'm going to say. So I always bring a couple of different pacifiers just to have them on hand if I need them. And each baby can be a little bit different. I did find a brand. I can't remember the brand now. I think I want to say they're Lily or something. a brand of pacifiers that are my favorite. I actually only just found them with my last baby, and I really, really like these ones. And so I do have those left over from Ricky from 2 years ago. So I'm just going to boil those. We'll reuse those. And then if we need to run to Walmart and try different kinds, we can, because some babies, just depending on their palates, their tongues, they might, kind of need to take a different one. But that's super personal. Like if you don't want to bring any pacifiers, you don't have to. Okay. My other thing is, I have it right here. Where is it somewhere? No, it must be too high. With my breastfeeding issues, my favorite pump in the entire world, and so many people are going to be like, that's crazy, is the Medela manual pump. So you literally squeeze it and it's a manual pump. I cannot pump very well. One of my sides will pump okay, but I mean, I'm talking, I'll get like an inch or two, or an ounce or two. The other side will produce often less than half of that. I just can't, anatomically, I can't pump on that side, which also is what makes breastfeeding more difficult. And so I've had the $400 really expensive electric pumps, trying to give my babies breast milk as long as I can. And we breastfeed, but trying to get some extra milk, especially with the twins, and the electric pumps don't work for me. They just don't. I can't spend that long getting an ounce out. And the manual pump is so strong that this is the only time with these last two babies and now this third that I have ever been able to pump at least like a decent amount. And it's a $28 pump. And so for me, it's just an absolute lifesaver. I know a lot of people like the Haka. So it's not a pump, but it's kind of a bottle that you can put on your other side so that while you're nursing or pumping on one side, it's catching all of the like extra that will just leak out. I don't have that problem. I tried the Haka and I got drops, like literally nothing. But if you have a very forceful letdown, if you have a lot of milk, there are moms who swear by the Haka that it is just the most amazing thing in the world. So it's definitely something to look into. But for me, it doesn't work. So I don't use it. All right. The next thing I'm getting prepped and ready to go is our newborn cloth diapers. As much as I say I'm super simple, we do cloth diaper, which to me is actually very simple, very easy. I've cloth diapered every child except for one. Has been cloth diapered at least a portion of their life. And so I have a whole stash of newborn cloth diapers. It is incredibly cheap. We actually, with where we stay now, we don't pay for electricity or water. And so using our washing machine, I mean, it's literally free. So I will have cloth diapers ready to go. I just use regular diapers while we're in the hospital until their meconium has passed, because that stuff is sticky and nasty. Once the meconium is through, then I stick them in the cloth diapers and I will use those. I think with being in the RV, I probably won't cloth diaper him his whole 2.5 years. But I will definitely through probably the first year, at least until he starts solid food. So we'll see, but that's kind of the plan at this point. But I will have those prepped and ready to go. The other thing that I use that has been a lifesaver in my last few babies are nipple shields. These have helped tremendously with pain and also with milk production. And again, there are split opinions on if you should use these or not. They have been absolutely life-saving for me. You can get them for like $10 at Target. So if you've had trouble breastfeeding, if you've had pain, if you've had issues, the nipple shields can be really helpful. Okay. All right. Then a few supplements for me that I will make sure I have ready to go. All four of my favorites are from a company called Earthly. So they have a postpartum balance tincture that is just a combination of herbs that are really, really good for helping balance your hormones postpartum. This is my number one absolute favorite in the world. I will take this a couple times a day for a couple of months. Postpartum balance. Ease the ache. This one is really, really helpful for postpartum contractions, postpartum cramping. You can use it during your monthly cycle, but it's really, really good postpartum pain. I love this one for the first couple of weeks. Earthly also makes one called Pain Potion, which again is supposed to help with pain. So with C-section, I do try to wean off the heavy duty medications, the narcotics, as soon as I can, usually around day 4 or 5. And so the Pain Potion is really helpful instead of having to, kind of a replacement of Tylenol or ibuprofen. And then I also make sure that I have their nipple balm on hand, because that's really soothing and very, Very nice. All right, my next essential item is a bassinet. I know some people will say, oh, I bought a bassinet and never used it once. I love my bassinet. I will nurse my babies to sleep. I will nurse with my babies in bed. But within, especially the first week, because I have a very hard time with C-section recovery, like getting up and down out of bed. But then I do try to, for naps, not all naps, a lot of naps, well, especially the very first month. Most naps are contact naps where he's just, napping on me. But I do then really like to get him napping on his own, at least some of the time. And then at bed, I like to nurse, put him in his bassinet, and then, get the 2 hours sleep and pull him back out. I just sleep better. He sleeps better all around. So I do use a bassinet. So I just have a little bassinet here. Nothing fancy. I don't know. It's like a $50 bassinet. You don't need the $3,000 Uber one. Just somewhere for the baby to sleep that's safe. And then a baby carrier. So I do love the baby carrier. Pretty much for the first 2 months when we go to church, baby will be in baby carrier every single time. It's just super easy for me getting the kids out. And then if we do I don't do a whole lot of extra errands and stuff in that first month or two, but if we do end up going to Costco with all the kids or things like that, the baby carrier is super helpful. I will wear it around the house a little bit. I wish I could baby wear more, but I have really bad neck issues, and the weight just, it gives me absolute headaches, and I just can't, it kills my back. And so, especially doing household chores, something like dishes, I think because I end up hunched over, it's just not good for my posture. And so I'm not someone who baby wears all the time. But my all-time favorite carrier I have ever found is from Lullaby. And it is a mix between a soft structure, I forget the exact words, but there's a soft structure baby carrier that's like a Moby wrap. So where you just have folds and folds of fabric, and then you tie up all these different ways of doing it, which I know some people love. I just really never got the hang of. I never felt like it was super secure. I don't know. I had 2 Moby wraps actually. I never loved them. So it's a cross between that and a structured baby carrier. So something like an ergo where you put it on, strap it on, do all the things. I always preferred that, but then they are, especially for a newborn, they're bigger, they're bulkier, they're not quite as comfortable, they're not as snug. And so the Lullaby is a cross between those two. So you still clip it on your waist. It still has clips on the back, but then the front of it and everything is all soft and stretchy. And I actually, because I looked up I was like, what is the name of this? I looked up the Lullaby. I started getting targeted ads from other wrap companies. And this is new since I think I've had my last baby, is the Moby wrap actually makes one now called the Moby Simple or something that looks very similar. It is got a clip that goes around your waist, so it's part structured. The front is all stretchy, though, like a normal Moby wrap. And so it looks like there's more companies starting to make these hybrids. So the Moby Simple, I think is what it's called, is $60. And then the Lullaby is I want to say it's about $100. I got mine on a second sale for, I want to say $60 or $70. But that's a really, really good price for a baby carrier. They can be really expensive. I can't speak to the Moby Simple. I still think the Lullaby looks better. You can also convert it to where you can put it on your back when the baby's older. I love it. I've tried a lot of baby carriers, and for me personally, the Lullaby is amazing. I love it. So it's LALABU is their website, and you can find their wrap there. I don't remember what their wrap is called. Okay. Last 2 things we really need. Baby, you need a newborn car seat. That is one of the things you actually absolutely have to be able to bring baby home. I'll tell you though. So, we get all prepared. We get all these things ready to go. And with our second set of twins, we had 2 infant car seats already, right? So we had gotten them all washed. We got them all cleaned. We got them installed in the car, and we are discharged from the hospital. So we were fully discharged, wheeled out to the front. Jason brings the car around, and one of the car seats was jammed. We could not get it unlocked. We found out later that this was a problem with this particular car seat. It had been recalled or something. I don't know. But you couldn't get it unhooked. So here I am sitting in the wheelchair with 2 newborn babies, and Jason's going, it's literally broken. The only way to do this is to cut it out. And so I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have to run to Target and you're going to have to go buy a new car seat. And so the nurse is standing beside us and she's like, well, you've been discharged already. Like, we can't actually bring you back upstairs. And I'm like, okay. And mind you, I just had a C-section. And we're like, but we can't bring both babies with us. So we're like, okay, well, can I just we'll just wait here. So I sat in the wheelchair at the curb outside, and Jason took one of the babies with him in the car seat that worked. I held the other baby. He went to Target. Meanwhile, my phone had died in this process. So I have no way of knowing when's he coming back. And the nurse, this was just a weird situation. I feel like this particular hospital could have given me a little bit more help, but it's okay. So finally I asked the nurse if I could use her phone, called Jason just to check on him. He was good. He was getting the car seat, but then we had a tiny car at the time. So he's at Target we had taken his work car to the hospital, which was a small car, just like a sedan type of thing. And he tells me this whole saga about how he gets back out, he's got a 3-day-old with him. He gets back to the car and he realizes, well, this whole entire car seat box is not going to fit into the car. So he had to fully take it out and set it up. And then he's like, I had nowhere, I couldn't do anything with this huge box. So he's like, I just had to leave it in the, cause he couldn't fit it in the car. I just had to leave it in the parking lot in the, the cart. And he's like, I felt so bad, but I couldn't do anything else. So anyway, finally gets back to the hospital. We get the second baby in. Meanwhile, at this point, my pain meds are already starting to wear off because, the whole discharge process takes a while. And then we have to go pick up my new pain meds on the way home. And it was a really long day by the time we got home, and just one of those stories where it's oh, you can plan, you can prepare. And, who would have thought we need to get a new car seat on the second we're trying to check out with twins. It was an interesting day. So we dealt with it. We got through it and whatever, it was what it was. But you do need a car seat, and plan the best you can. And sometimes weird things happen. It's never happened to us since. And then I love to have a single stroller that the car seat can snap into. This to me is a must because the baby can be sleeping in the car. You bring him out, you click him in the car seat or into the stroller and vice versa. So with our twins, we had a Graco stroller that was a double stroller. So both infant car seats could click in, which a lot of them don't have that. That was a must for us with twins. But even with a single, I really like having just a single stroller that we can just click the car seat into. It is so helpful in those first couple of months. So for me, that's a must have. But again, we actually just have a Graco car seat and a Graco single stroller. We're not super fancy. We do have the one nice stroller we have that I love is our Bob stroller. Now, these were the epitome of a nice stroller when I was a new mom. And they were $500, $600, $800. Never got one. Just until just over 2 years ago, I found one in a consignment sale for $80. I was so happy. And the Bob is just the Bob is the greatest thing ever to me. But I know that there's all kinds of new brands. I don't even know them. Someone was telling me, oh, but the Up Baby is worth it. I think that's a really expensive one. I don't know. So do your research. I mean, you can find good strollers secondhand. A good stroller is going to move better than a cheaper one. The Bob is great because the Bob is a jogging stroller. So we do that for all of our hikes and we have a double one. So there's definitely items that you can, get more expensive and they can be really good. And then the last thing for me that I have now found is very helpful is a swing. We don't have a swing right now though. Our last swing it was in the garage from the last baby and it ended up with mold in it. And so we started looking at it and I'm like, it's such a big swing anyway. We're really not going to have room in the RV. So Jason and I were just talking last week. Oh, it would be so nice to have a swing. So we've looked at getting one of the little tiny ones, but we really don't have room for it here in the RV. So we probably will just skip one this time around. But again, if I get a week or two postpartum and we go, oh, it'd be so nice to have, we may go get a really cheap one. But the thing that I will end up picking up that we don't have yet is a little bouncer seat. where he can be on like the table and he can be like in his little bouncer away from all the shenanigans happening with all the other kids. That is something that I will probably get for the first couple of months. Okay. All right. Tip number 3, we'll move through these ones faster. Listen to your body. Listen to your body, not other people's experiences. So, I mean, hear people's stories, get advice from people, hear what people have done. You know, moms are ready to share their mistakes too and say, I got up too quickly, I did too much, or, you know, but rest when you can. Absolutely. We do need to treat our bodies well. We need to rest. And if you feel like getting up, do it. There's no rules. And a big thing now is how the 4th trimester, you know, is what they call it after having baby, how you shouldn't get out of bed for 40 days. And I don't know. That is not me. There is absolutely no capacity. Like there's the whole like advice where you're supposed to be in bed for a week and then around your bed for a week and then like in your room for a week, something. I would die 1,000 painful deaths if someone made me try to do that. My postpartum depression would be horrible. It would not be good for my mental health. I don't think it would be good for my physical health. I feel worse. 3 weeks of laying in bed, of not getting up and doing things would not be good for me. And there are moms though, who are like, it was the greatest, best time of my entire life. I wanted to be in bed longer. So listen to your body. I'm getting up and doing like workouts or anything, but I need to get up and like make myself a cup of tea and move around a little, like getting my blood flowing. I have to. I like being out with the family, so I will park myself on the couch, be out with people. It is so much better for my mental and I think physical health to be out and around. So listen to the advice, hear what people are saying, and then do what your body is telling you to do. Go with it. If you are like, I need to be separated, I need to be away, if you can, do that. But also like, don't get stressed if someone's telling you this is the way that you're supposed to do it. There's a lot of well-meaning advice, but we are all different and there's different personalities. Okay. All right. Number 4 goes along with this quite a bit, is to watch your hormones and make sure you're being attentive to your own body's needs. So hormones can go crazy out of whack. This is really what causes so much postpartum depression. And I had really bad postpartum depression with my first, but it was very unclassical. Like I didn't feel like taking my own life. I didn't feel like there was so much of what you hear about postpartum depression. I wasn't angry at the babies. There's so much that I didn't have any of that I did not connect until the second babies, that was actually postpartum depression. And then it was pretty deep, because it was so different than what I had thought. And so, really just kind of, hormones can get so out of whack. And now I really know the signs. I know when I'm starting to when my cortisol starts spiking, when my thyroid gets out of whack. And really it's just starting to learn your own body and start to figure things out. So just pay attention. And that's where some of the supplements, postpartum balance, can really come into play. And just be attentive to your body and what your body's needing. If your body is saying, I need more rest today, listen to it. If you're feeling good and you can get up and go on a walk, listen to that. Okay. All right. Number 5, this is going to be controversial for some people, because I see reels about this all the time. Prioritize sleep. And seriously, sleep when the baby sleeps. It doesn't mean that every time the baby's sleeping, you're sleeping. But I see reels all the time where people are like, that's the stupidest advice I've ever heard. And I don't think it is. I think you try to take a nap when the baby's napping. And it's not always possible. So with like my firstborns, I absolutely could nap when they napped. I was home and it was just the 2 of them. And I was trying to sleep probably every chance that they were. But when I had all littles at home, and a newborn, like Jason's back to work, like I couldn't just always nap all the time, but I could put on a movie for the older kids, lay the baby down, and like rest on the couch for a little while. Like do that if you need to, because there have been times where I'm like, no, I got to get stuff done. So I'm like, I feel okay. So then I do dishes and I'm walking around, I'm doing things, and then the baby's awake and I realize then how terrible I feel, that I should have sat down and rested more. And I also think sleep when the baby sleeps highly applies to nighttime. And this is a lesson that I have to learn every baby. I am naturally a night owl. I love, everybody, all the other kids are asleep and the baby's sleeping and, you stay up too late or it's 10:30 and you're like, well, he's going to have to feed again at midnight. So like, what's the point? And then you end up staying up through that whole feed. And then it's 12:30 by the time you can you can actually go to sleep. And yet your most restorative sleep is before 1, 2 a.m. That is your most restorative sleep that you will get all night. And so I was really struggling after baby number 5 and really struggling with my hormones and stuff. And I went into our baby doctor, who was amazing in California. Absolutely loved her. And she was like asking about stuff. And, I think she could see how exhausted I was. And she said, Jami, you need to be going to sleep earlier. And she's the one who first told me that your most restorative sleep is before then. And I'm like, oh, well, like, I'm not going to bed before midnight. And she's like, you need to, like, you need to. And I know for some people that's not a struggle, but I just, that has been a struggle for me. And so I really remember that, like, if the baby's done with a feed at 9, that is way too early for me to normally go to bed any other time of my life. But I'm going to lay down and I'm going to sleep for an hour or an hour and a half. And then the baby's going to be up again. And then I'll nurse. And so really, like, it is true. Try to sleep when the baby sleeps. It doesn't mean the baby's going to be sleeping all day long. Doesn't mean you're sleeping all the time. Yes, there are things that we need to take care of. But there are times where we need to prioritize that sleep as well. And prioritizing sleep for us is one of the biggest things that we can do. And God does give us so much extra grace and hormones in that newborn period where, like, I've joked about this before that, you have a 2-year-old who's sick and is suddenly like up in the middle of the night and you can't handle it at all. Like, I'm like, I can't, he was up twice last night and I'm dying and I can't function. There's something so different that, yes, while your newborn's up all the time and you're sleepless and you're tired, God gives you extra to be able to handle that. Like, there is something in your hormones. There's something in that time period where you can handle the broken sleep better than you can in different times of life. Not that you're not still tired and exhausted. But I think there's a lot of grace given by God if we are trying to fit in 1 hour, fit in an hour of sleep, try to do that. Okay. So sleep when baby sleeps. I actually agree with that. All right. If in the end, my last piece of advice, things don't go the way that you think that they should. So needing antibiotics, here. Needing formula, here. Never thought I would ever give formula. Having a C-section, I've had 6. Having to go back to work sooner than you'd like. So many things can go the way that we didn't expect or that we didn't want. We need to trust the Lord in the process. So with my first set of twins, I was determined. I read all the things about twins, and you absolutely can nurse twins full time. You absolutely can. There are many people who do. You totally can. And I was like, oh yeah, crunchy mom over here. Of course I'm going to be nursing them full time. So completely started out that way. But my worst nurser out of all 8 children was one of those twins. I also didn't realize that I was going to have the breastfeeding issues that I was going to have. You don't know until you have the baby. And we also had major yeast. It was really compounded. And this baby, who does not nurse well, was starting to have extreme jaundice. And if they're not peeing and pooping, then that jaundice is not getting out. Well, he wasn't eating, so he wasn't peeing or pooping. And he was starting to lose weight. And it got to the point where he was not taking enough milk. He really was not. And so at like our whatever 1.5 week appointment, whatever it was, my doctor was like, you need to supplement a little bit. And I was like, no, because then that ruins everything. And so I was distraught having to give that first formula bottle because I'm like, it's gonna be the end of everything, which again, I was just being overly dramatic. Like, do what you got to do. But it was upsetting. Like, I didn't want to have to give formula at all. Eventually he ended up on almost exclusively formula. I tried to give him as much breast milk as I could, but I couldn't pump back then. Oh, just things not going the way that I wanted. Right. And I have now made my peace. Every single one of my child at some point in their first year has ended up having to have formula. It's not what I would have chosen. It's not how I wanted it to be. And yet it is what it is. And so now I thank the Lord that we have really good options, that we've done homemade formula several times with some of the kids. We will be using a formula called Sammy's Milk this time around. I know we're eventually going to need it. Hopefully not for the first 3 to 5 months. I hopefully won't need it at all. But again, we'll see. Holding that with a loose hand, but hopefully not. Sammy's Milk is fantastic. It's goat's milk formula. It has avocado oil. Really, really great. Very gentle on baby's tummy. That's what we will be using this time around. We've kind of jumped around with different formulas, trying to find good ones that actually are affordable too, because man, does it get expensive. But I have peace about it now. It's still not what I would have designed or chosen, and yet God is in control. So trust the Lord in the process. And it might be tough, but I just really want to try to encourage you to not turn into a victim. You can do hard things, and sometimes God calls us to walk through the hard. Sometimes this is what he calls us to do. For whatever reasons, this has been our journey with breastfeeding. And God is in control. He is sovereign. And I'm not going to walk around with guilt. We tried absolutely everything, crying through nursing sessions. To the point where with the first, we made it 7 months breastfeeding, with twins. That is a feat. And, I remember Jason got home from work one day, and, he had a really long commute to work, and he gets home, and I'm sobbing on the couch because I have almost no milk coming out still. I'm sobbing. And Jason goes, you know what? I think you need to be done breastfeeding. And I was like, no, I can't, for all, it's expensive and it's not as healthy. And, I'm going through these things, and he's like, okay, I support you in whatever you want, but the formula is going to be okay. We'll figure out the cost. He was very sweet, but he was like, this is not okay. You need to be done. And it wasn't necessarily the best thing for the babies at the time anyway, because of my milk production and everything. And I was like, okay. And there was just this weight that was lifted off of me of so much stress. And so, I'm not pushing you to say, oh, go do formula. I do think breast is best. I think that it's nutritionally superior. I think all of those things. But my point is, God calls us to walk through hard things sometimes, and we need to trust him in that. And the mommy guilt is real, and we can beat ourselves up, or we can give that anxiety and that fear and everything over to the Lord and say, I trust you, Lord, and I'm going to trust this process because you are sovereign over all things. And so if we need to switch to formula, if we need to give medicine that we didn't want to give, if we, whatever that process is, we can give that to the Lord, and we can trust. We can trust in that. And we don't need to go back and second guess constantly either. So what I want to encourage you is don't grumble your way through motherhood because things are not what you expected or what the influencers told you should happen. If God calls you into a tough season, praise him for that. Even if, you don't get your golden hour or your golden fourth trimester that you wanted, trust God still over all of that, and find joy in the things you can find joy in. Okay. Find the joy there that is to be had. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much for tuning in with me today. We'll see you guys back here next week for the next episode.